pleasure to be with you guys, to be able to just bring you a little bit of what I call perspective on where we're at in the world today with two very critical issues that impact almost everybody's life, and that is their finances and their health. And I think Manatech is an incredible blessing to the lives of millions of people around the world. And I want to kind of go through that story of sort of how we were founded, the technologies that I think we've been blessed with that have impacted so many people's lives, and some of the challenges along the way, but really what the future looks like. The first thing I want to talk about is healthcare in general, because our philosophy, particularly in Western civilization, has evolved around the concept of free sickness. It's almost like a constitutional right that everybody has access to free sickness. And it's a flawed philosophy because the cost of that is going to bankrupt, not only personally and not only from a business perspective, but also a national perspective. Healthcare costs are going absolutely through the roof. Now, this is an interesting brochure because it was put out by a company called IBM. And just like they're solution providers for IT systems, they also look at the global impact of trends that will impact businesses everywhere. Let me give you an example of some of the impact that healthcare has had. General Motors spends more on healthcare than they do on steel. And they make steel cars. Starbucks spends more on healthcare than it does coffee, if you can believe that. IBM's brochure to the business world is, you know what? You guys had better start paying attention to what is going on with healthcare, because it will single-handedly bring down businesses all over the world. The first sentence in this brochure is, healthcare is in crisis. He said, in Ontario, Canada's most populous province, healthcare will account for 50% of all government spending by the year 2011, 2/3 of all government spending by 2017, and 100% by 2026. Now, the point is that's unsustainable. There is no way that the government can spend 100% of its expenditures on healthcare. Just can't do it. It's the same story everywhere you go. This is Business Week in 2006, and it says the investment in healthcare in the United States is not paying off. There's a massive amount of spending on things that really don't help patients and even sometimes put them at greater risk. Everyone that's informed on the topic knows it, but it's such a scary thing to discuss that people are not willing to talk about it openly. And it's not enough that we have this philosophy for people whose health has been compromised, that by just managing these processes and just piling on this expense, that the healthcare community or big pharma is happy with that. In fact, in 1998 and 1999, over about a one-year period, they were successful in going beyond sick people. And the way they did it is they petitioned in the United States the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, to adjust biomarkers of health. So here's healthy cholesterol levels. They lowered those. Healthy blood pressure levels were lowered. Healthy blood sugar levels that indicated diabetes were lowered. Weight that was attributable to obesity was lowered. So just a few pounds lower constituted obesity. And what happened with those changes is in the United States, 100 million people went from being healthy to being sick, just because we changed the parameters of what is sick. 100 million people. Seattle Times did an incredible expose on that phenomena. And the headline of their series was Suddenly Sick. And they call these 100 million people the worried well, because they have no indication of disease other than biomarkers have put them in a category that they don't understand. And so all of a sudden the pharmaceutical industry also petitioned the FDA and said, you know what? We need to go out and educate these people. They don't know that they're ill. They don't know that they're at risk. And so for the first time in the history of our country, Pharmaceutical companies were able to advertise directly to consumers on TV. You know, it just adds to the expense and accelerates this unsustainable growth in a very dynamic way. There's more at risk than just the finances too, as this article pointed out in the LA Times in 2006. It said at least 1.5 million Americans are injured or killed every year by medication. That means properly prescribed drugs kill or maim 1.5 million people a year. And we're finding more ways of getting more drugs to more people by reinventing new biomarkers of disease. Who in the world could get away with this? Can you think of another industry that could kill or maim 1.5 million people a year and it'd be okay? Think about the airline industry. What if about 40 or 50,000 people a month started being killed or maimed seriously by airline crashes? I would have had to walk to Canada. I mean, they wouldn't have let another airplane fly, but somehow it's been okay to allow this to occur. So there's great personal cost in the philosophy that we've adapted. The World Health Organization put these statistics out a few years ago, and they were looking at total health of population. And the U.S. ranks 72nd out of 191 countries in the world in terms of health of population. Now, what's really sad about that is that we spend in the United States 2.5 times more than the average country out there. We use 40% of all prescribed drugs in the United States. So it's not a lack of money, it's not a lack of effort, and yet we only rank 72nd. In Canada, there was a Euro study that involved Canada, and they looked at 30 countries and they looked at the comparison of the healthcare systems themselves. Canada ranks 23rd out of 30 countries. And when you look at 29 countries in Europe, you're looking at places like Poland, the Ukraine, things like that, and Canada is way down because in Western civilization, we have adopted a faulty and broken philosophy. And as a result, this shouldn't surprise anyone. 89% of the people surveyed in 2005 said, you know what, we think something's wrong with our current healthcare environment. So what do we do about it? Oh, I love this article right here. This is an article in Fortune magazine last year by a businessman by the name of Andy Grove. The U.S. healthcare system is expensive and uneven in both quality and availability. Your staff is probably working on a big, ambitious plan to fix healthcare. I have a best of all worlds idea too. In my system, the government would cover preventative care and catastrophic health-related expenses. The ordinary medical expenses would be left to individuals. The reason I like this approach is that it has built-in incentives to support preventative care, and it would also protect people from financial ruin due to illness. What a great idea. You know, in the IBM report, they said, the only thing that we can do is combine the best of the East with the best of the West. They were talking about an integrative approach. They're saying it's the only thing that makes any sense. We can't sustain ourselves just going down this road of free sickness and seeing these expenses blow through the roof. It isn't going to work. And I tell you, people in America are worried, and in the United States are worried. Social Security might be in trouble. Let me show you what's in bigger trouble. Medicare. Medicare is free sickness for the elderly. As soon as you retire, you're eligible for Medicare. Medicare is upside down $28 trillion. That's the commitment we have made to the baby boomer generation that's about to retire, that will take care of your health care from this day forward. And guess what? It is not going to happen. And that is growing at a rate of about $2 to $3 trillion a year. So folks, life is not going to be the same as it is today in the next 5, 10, 15 years.